Good morning. Buenos dias. Hello, hello. Welcome to Spiritual Matters Thursdays here at the Daily Huddle. I am your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando. And today the topic is, what do you do when things fall apart? And I'm talking kind of mellow because, Lord have mercy, because there's a certain level of like courage, there's a certain level of oomph that happens when things fall apart. Maybe your first reaction could be like, what the heck is happening here? Lord, why did you do this to me? Or, what did I do to deserve it? And sometimes we go into victim mode, but eventually the badass in you kicks in. Eventually the part of you that says, oh, hell no, you're not gonna beat me today. Not today. That part kicks in. And that's the part that I want to talk to today. So the quote that I have for you today is from the inimitable Dr. Maya Angelou. And she says, you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so that you can know who you are, what you can rise from, and how you can still come out of it. It's Dr. Maya Angelou. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Well, hello from the east, hello from the west, hello from the north, hello from the south, hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody to the Daily Huddle Spiritual Matters Thursday. Like I said, I'm your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando. Today we're talking about what happens when things fall apart. And this is one of those episodes where you're gonna want to get grounded. You're gonna want to get in your center. You want to earth a little, so that you can be prepared, equipped to discuss it, to navigate those choppy waters, and then come out the jewel that you already are. You don't have to become a jewel to deal with tough times. You have to reveal the jewel that you already are. So let's get grounded in that. And I'm going to ask our beloved friend, Chase. Chase, how are you? And what are you thankful for?
Great, Queen. Always nice to see you. Oh man, I am exactly the way I say I am. Today I'm quite pensive and open.
Oh, perfect for today.
And what am I grateful for? I am grateful for breath of life today.
Yes.
I truly am. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being available for that inquiry. And Gio, where are you? And who are you hugging today?
I am here.
Yes.
I am here. And who am I going to hug today? I'm going to, given that I'm home alone, I'm going to be hugging my dogs.
Oh.
Dogs hug.
Yes. I did a lot of whining about my daughter's dogs when they were here. But I have to say, they're really good huggers. They really are. That's great. Awesome. And Virtue, what time is it where you are?
She might be working.
She might be working. It's work time, I guess. So let's talk about today. Let's talk about this idea of when things fall apart. As you know, I am your audit your assumptions ambassador. Okay, let's start there. Let's start auditing our assumptions. And I'm going to give you kind of like the timbre of what we're talking about, and then we're just going to explore it to see if that's what's actually happening. So when things fall apart, quote unquote, when things aren't going your way, when things are going wrong, it assumes that there's a way for things to go right. Right? It assumes that you have an expectation. It assumes that you have some kind of idea of this is the way things, quote unquote, should be. And when things aren't going the way that things should go, that's when you get stressed. That's when you get like, oh, there's some trouble here. There's something's off, right? And so that's the first assumption that we want to check in on. How do you know that things are supposed to go this way? How do you know that? Maybe it's just an expectation. Maybe it is a desire of yours. Maybe it is a way to avoid discomfort. Sometimes the reason we want things to go a particular way is so that we won't have to confront pain or uncertainty or, disalign in unalignment with another person, et cetera. We don't want that kind of confrontation. So we want things to go smoothly so we don't have to deal. But the thing that I have learned in all of my living, I'm not gonna tell you how many years, but in all of my living, what I have learned is that in the dark places, in the shadow places, in the unexpected, uncertain, turbulent places, that's where I have discovered grace in other people, patience, resourcefulness, ingenuity, creativity. I have found my own love and grace and ingenuity and creativity, not just in other people. Typically, when I found it in other people, they just pointed to the ones I have, right? And it's also an opportunity for you to pause and get curious. So many times we spend in defense mode, we spend in reactivity, right? What if we just put the reaction down for a second and just breathe and just pause and take a look at for what's actually happening? Let's take the latest holy crap breakdown in your life. Just think back to whatever that holy crap breakdown was in your life. It could have been in your family, it could have been in your work, it could have been just maybe something that's happening in regular life, like current events, it may not necessarily be personal, but just pick one. And let's pause for a second. Fill in the blank for yourself. You don't have to put it in the comments, but just let me walk with you on this. Fill in the blank for yourself. The reason this bothers me is because, and you fill in the blank. So I'm going to tell you about the dogs. My daughter is in the Navy, and she is going to another chapter of her life. She moved from the West Coast to now the East Coast. But before she settled in to her new place where she's going to be for the next 2-3 years, she had to go to school. She had to go to training for 5 weeks. And she couldn't take her dogs. She has 2 Rottweilers that she just recently, they're puppies. And so she asked my husband and I to keep them for 5 weeks in our house, in our empty nester house, in our beautiful, newly decorated empty nester house with these puppies while she goes to school. And we said yes, like the idiots that we are. I've never owned a dog. My husband has never owned a dog. So we're like, how bad could this be? Well, let me tell you, these children of God were peeing everywhere and pooping everywhere and breaking up couches and chewing up carpet. And I was just like, oh my God, is it legal to kill them? What are we gonna do? How do people do this? And what I was having trouble with, I was resisting that I felt like my peace and my quiet was being intruded upon, even though I was the one that said, yes, you can keep the dogs here. But I felt like, listen, I'm in the season of my life where life needs to just be peaceful. And this doesn't feel peaceful to me, okay? So for me, that was like, that's something wrong. And I felt like they were doing it to me. You know, like it was like they were being destructive on purpose. Like I was taking it personally. Like, why are you doing this? I know you're not in your mama's house. This is not Sarah's house. This is somebody else. You don't really know me. So now you're acting all adversarial. I was taking it personally. I forgot that they're puppies. And I forgot that all organisms, humans and animals alike, sometimes act a little weird when they're in strange places. I act weird when I'm in a strange place too. I don't chew carpet, but I act weird when I'm in a weird place. And so what happened was that I started to get curious, and I started to be able to take my like empathy, right? It's like, oh, you know what? If I was freaking out and I didn't know how to communicate, I'd have some nervous tics. And maybe their nervous tick is to chew carpet. Mine might be something else. Mine might be to be over talking or to not talk at all, or whatever the case may be, right? But there's a way that you act when you're weird and when you're out of place and when you don't know what to expect and you feel like you're beyond your control. And that's what was happening with the puppies. And so I say that because I had to get out of my resistance and my taking it personally and being offended and acting like life was, you know, adversarial, in order for me to see what was the blessing there, in order for me to see why was this happening. And there were some challenges that were happening in the house or in my relationship with my husband at the time that I'm actually very glad that the dogs were here. Because the dogs actually brought us back together. They gave us like a common purpose. We all of a sudden became parents together again after years of being empty nesters. And, you know, he walked them in the mornings, I walked them at night, and who's gonna feed and who's gonna do this, and like this division of labor. And we've never owned dogs before, so it was like new for the both of us. And it actually created an opportunity for us to create intimacy around a common goal, around a common purpose. And I had no idea that my marriage was gonna use that was gonna need that. You know what I mean? So now looking back on it, of course, now I can be all philosophical and just wax romantic about it because the dogs are gone. But the opportunity for me was maybe the thing that you think is an inconvenience, maybe the thing that you think is destructive is actually coming to organize and reorganize some things in your life so that you can get a greater perspective. That's a possibility. And so I would love to hear from you the places where maybe things have quote unquote fallen apart for you, but perhaps you're distant enough from it to get the perspective that they were actually coming together. They're actually falling into place. I would love to hear some of, and then what are the practices that you use? Like I told you, one of the practices that I use is to get quiet, to get still so that I could hear my own wisdom, my own discernment, my own intuition. I really haven't mastered what it looks like for me to access my intuition or my discernment in chaos. It takes quiet, it takes distance, it takes empty spaces for me to be able to access that readily. And so that I always make sure that I get some of that. It's one of the reasons why I spend my mornings by myself, except on Thursdays, I spend it with y'all. But usually I spend my mornings by myself. I'm not available for public consumption for that reason, because I like to create empty spaces so that I can be ready to contribute, so that I can pour into other people. I know that about myself. What about you? What do you do when things quote unquote fall apart? What have you noticed has been the purpose of things falling apart for you? What have you discovered for yourself? Let's open up the discussion. Yes, Gio.
Great conversation. Thank you, Dr. Ogando. I'm going to answer your question, but I also wanted to ask you a question too.
Okay, sure.
Or maybe get your comments on something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do at this point in my life is to a little closer to what you were saying and what you were pointing to. There is at this point, there is a sense that for me, that I don't know why things are happening, and like you said once to me, and I don't need to know why. I don't need to know what they're for. And most of them are most of the time when I get quiet and I allow the things that are happening to be the way they are and the way they're not, most of the time later on, as I reflect, I see the miracles that evolve from that. And so in my biggest challenges, currently the biggest challenges I have, rather say, currently the biggest miracles I'm enjoying, I can certainly see they came from a real breakdown for me, a very big breakdown. Certainly I can say that currently right now. But here's my question, or my thing to take on. So one of the things that I grapple with is this is all new to me. You know, I'm more of I used to say, when I was going to describe myself, I used to say I'm more down to earth kind of person. And so I used to what is the word I'm looking for? I used to have real emotional breakdowns when things weren't going the way I expected them. Right. And so that felt a lot more human, like just do this big temper tantrum, and all hell breaks loose, and it almost felt like I had to, that was the way to embrace chaos, and something like that. But anyway, I'm no longer do that. Now I'm like more alluding to what you were pointing to. So here's my question. I feel a little, I'm having a hard time explaining my feelings. I feel a little bit like this is a season I need to enjoy. Yeah, there you go. Like this is kind of a season, like this whole smart, wise, looking for the blessing behind the breakdown or the chaos, and being able to see the miracle. It's part of the good season in my life, because they're not mega breakdowns like some people are dealing with. These are like tiny, stupid breakdowns. So I'm like walking around in cloud nine. And I'm sort of afraid for the big breakdown, like,
the other shoe to drop kind of thing.
Yeah, like the piano on my head, like the skydive accident, like the real breakdowns, right? And or something terrible in family. So I'm sort of afraid of something terrible, so that I can get back down to earth and be emotional.
Okay. So what's the question on that?
What's that?
What's the question on that?
See, I knew there was no question there. But but no, I know I'm struggling, but okay, so let me see if I can say it straight. One of my, as in this question that you're creating, or this session you're talking about breakdowns, one of the things I fear currently, I fear that my life is going so well that when a breakdown happens, they are so small that I'm somehow not deserving of the life I enjoy, that I am not connected to humanity. So like somehow at some point in the future, the things need to balance. So I go back to what being human is, the real suffering, like I am clear that I enjoy a life that 99% of the people don't. So I feel like I don't deserve it. And I'm waiting for the big breakdown to happen so that I can be, I don't know, more human, if you will. I don't know. So is that, does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense. And I'm gonna, here's where I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna talk about the you, the personal you and the collective you, right? Because as human beings, yes, you have a singular life, but you're also a drop in a larger ocean, right? And so just like in the ocean, there are parts of the water that are cold, and then there are parts of the water that are really, really warm. There are parts that are in the depth that nobody has ever seen. And then there's water that just kind of trickles in and out of the shore. That's very surfacey. And so an individual life could have multiple blessings and multiple, moments and phases of ease. And then there are others that just have complete and total moments of destruction or moments of chaos or moments of unpredictability or hard times or whatever the case may be. But collectively, when we come together, the ones that have transcended those hard times are like a lighthouse to the ones that have never, right? Or the ones that seem to still be in the spiral of chaos or of difficulty. And so I want you to own the ease with which you live now, because it is relative. It's relative to, there are people who have greater ease than you, right? Right? And then there are people who have never known ease. And we sometimes feel guilty because it's like, oh, well, these people have it so tough. Like, why do I get to live like this? Why am I blessed, right? But we hardly ever look at the people who have even better ease than us and like, dang, I want to get over there, right? And so I just want you to think about the collective you and your role in the larger pool of humanity. That perhaps the reason why you have collected these experiences has been so that you can be a lighthouse to somebody else. And as such, allow somebody else to be a lighthouse to you as well. It's the reason why I do the whole diamond and the dung analogy when I talk to crowds, when I tell people that, like, if you ball up your fists like this and imagine that on the right-hand fist, there's like this disgusting, gooey, icky ball of dung, right? Like S-H-I-T. And on the left, you have this induplicable, amazing diamond. We sometimes move in the world as though if I just open up, people are going to see what a piece of shit I am. But what if you're this? What if when you open up, you're this induplicable, amazing, resplendent diamond? And then we want to open up, right? But here's what happens. If you stand up in a room full of people and you spread your hands out, your dung touches somebody else's diamond and your diamond touches somebody else's dung. And it is our light that allows other people to lift out of their darkness. And so instead of feeling guilty about the ease with which you live, perhaps it is your contribution.
I have a follow-up and I don't want to take Cece's time. So can you come back if you have time?
Sure, absolutely. Don't forget the follow-up though.
Nope, I wrote it down.
Okay, Cece, what's up?
Oh, I love this topic. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Gio, for sharing. What I'm getting out of this conversation is when things go out of my realm, out of control, initially I get scattered. And then I said, you know what, this is beyond me. So then that's when I start breathing, in and out. And then I realized that, okay, it's out of my control. So God, I got to get with God so that he can control the situation instead of me trying to look for avenues of escape. Because when I think about it, in the grand scheme of things, somebody suffered a whole lot worse than me, to even my ancestors, the people who came from Africa, wherever they originated from, and came to the United States. They were on ships with no food. They were suffering So when they got to the US, they still were suffering through my bloodline. And who knows how much trauma somebody in my family went through in order for me to get here. My mother had to go through it for me to get through.
Right.
So I think about it like this. What am I going to do to help someone else? What am I going to take this pain or take this experience and use it as a testimony of how God got me out when it was out of my control. Nobody could help me but God. So I'm looking at it from that sense. So all I needed to do is start calming down and say, okay, I can't, it's like driving the car. My car goes out of control. Do I relax and go with the flow of the vehicle if it's raining? And then, just steer the steering wheel straight? Or do I panic and go all over the place and hit everybody and then cause even more problem? No.
Right.
I've driven enough to where I just need to calm down. It's only a little movement of the vehicle and just keep moving forward and don't get stuck in the circumstances. This is how I'm gathering. And thank you so much for the conversation. I hope I didn't take too long. And
No, that was perfect. Beautiful. Thank you, Cece. That was great. Awesome. Okay, Giovanni, back to you.
Thank you, Cece. That was really great. What I wanted to follow up, the possibility that you were creating, I really connected with it. That I have transcended who I have been being for a long time. And then I have some guilt, and I have some guilt in that transcendence for collective guilt, for the suffering of others. I have some guilt I'm seeing. In this conversation, really, I never quite saw it before. And you point to perhaps the transcendence is the lighthouse for somebody, right? And I certainly see it in my life. And so the follow-up question I had is how to manage being the possibility of the lighthouse. How do you manage pride, the envy that others feel, this natural ego aspect that shows up? Like, oh, well, for me, one of the things that I need to manage is, oh, look what I have transcended. So therefore, I'm special. Ho, ho. And then, like clearly not. So that I balance myself back to being a student of life, and I sort of manage it that way. Continue to be a student of life. I love how Sorel said it the other day: mastering one's humanity.
Yeah.
Being in the practice of mastering one's humanity. And but it comes with all of this sort of negative emotions: pride, envy from others, and all those weird things.
Can you be okay with being prideful and feeling special and wanting specialness? Can you be okay with that? Because that's part of your humanity too.
Like, can I be okay with it? Like, I can notice it, and then I can drop it. Can I be okay walking in that? Ugh, no, that's kind of like.
Well, the reason I say that is because part of, I think, what makes things go faster, this I learned from my daughter when she was 3. I was going through a cancer experience, and I was freaking out. I was getting bills and all of this other stuff, and I was staying up late at night, and I was looking at all the stuff, stressing out, crying. She heard me crying, and she came out of her room into the living room or the dining room where I was at, and she sat on my lap, and she saw me crying, and she started crying. And I was like, I know why I'm crying, baby. Why are you crying? She says, Mama, if we cry together, it goes by faster. And I just thought that was the most amazing definition of compassion that I had ever heard before or since. And so when you can name whatever it is that you're feeling and then like be in it, it goes by faster, because then it's like, now it's not like this big shameful secret about your character flaw, now it could just be like, look, this is where I went with it. Isn't it funny? My humanity is so funny that one specialness so bad that it'll like beat some odds and then throw it in your face and then be special about it. And then, you know, try to be proud of something that it was like some of that stuff I don't even know. I didn't even control. It wasn't even me, but I'm making it like it's my personal achievement. Isn't that hilarious? And so when we name some of our stuff, it takes away some of that poison. It kind of like neutralizes it, you know. That's step one, I think, or suggestion number one. And then suggestion number two would be to notice the emotional need that you're trying to fill with that pride and that specialness and othering other people. Because the only reason why I would want to feel, why I would want importance is because I don't have it, right? I only want what I don't have. If I have it, there's no wanting there, there's just having. And so when I want importance, it's typically because I don't feel it. And in which ways do I, bless you, salud, in what ways do I not feel important such that I need to assert it by pride of achievement or by pride of specialness or whatever the case may be? And that may not necessarily be a dialogue with somebody else. That might just be for you to investigate within yourself. But I think it's important for us to, for all of us, not just, this isn't a Giovanni thing, for all of us to look at the ways in which we seek to have our emotional needs met. And then when we understand what that is, certainly sometimes what happens is something will pop up that says, this is a healthier way. This is an easier way. This is a friendlier way to get that need met. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, yes. And I wish we had more time. I know it's already 9:30. And
I know it. I know it.
The time goes by so fast. Later.
If I had a desire for a superpower, it would be that. It would be to be able to like stretch time and make it last longer as long as I want it, or to make it last as little as I want it. I would want to be the accordion of time. Thank you everybody for being here. Always remember to love generously, to laugh ostentatiously, to give of yourself, your energy, your time, your attention, sleep, get at least 7 hours, stress less, eat more plant-based food, move your body. And of course, darling, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Always audit your assumptions. Thank you, everybody, for being here. See you next time.